Hello, Nigel here with you back again. This is the final part in this month's delivery of the Ford GT500 Shelby Mustang from DeAgostini in a massive 1/6 scale. If you want to find out more about this model, there's a link in the description below here. Go take a look. It is well worth a look. It's huge, as you will see in this video. So in this video, this is part 23, I'm going to be covering packs 47 and pack 48. So we're going to be finishing off the gearbox by the look of it, and then we've got a lovely bit of floor section to go in. So as usual, look at the magazines first. So here's a very interesting subject, Mustang pace cars. So you can see here, Daytona 500. This would have been 2010, I'm guessing. Yes, because this is the S197 Mustang with the facelift. So you can see S197 looking very, very gorgeous with those lovely wheels in a beautiful paint scheme. So very nice indeed. And then coming over the page, you can see here 2010, there's a different paint scheme on that one, which is that one there, with an engine developing 412 horsepower. So that would have been the Coyote. This would have been the Coyote Gen 1 in this one. Developing 412 horsepower, the Mustang Shelby GT500 of 2010 had everything necessary to carry out the functions of a pace car. So that wasn't the Coyote. I think they've got that wrong. No, in fact, no, the Gen 1 didn't make 412 horsepower, did it? Or did it? There's something wrong here. Now, a GT500 is always supercharged. And I don't think the S197 2010 GT500 had a Coyote engine, because the GT500 engine I don't think had 32 valves, and it certainly made more than 412 horsepower, because mine is a 2017 but available from 2015, and that makes 415 horsepower in British guys. I think it's about 423 horsepower in America. So mine's a Gen 2, this is a Gen 1. So there's something wrong there. Either they called it a GT500 and fitted a different engine, or it wasn't a GT500. But anyway, I'm sure some of you in America can look it up and tell me, because there's something wrong there. There's definitely something wrong. Right, there's the parts we got. So we're going to be finishing off the gearbox by the look of it, and we're going to be fitting it to the floor, so you will get to see how huge this thing is. Jeff Gordon, yes, NASCAR's Rainbow Warrior. He's a guy whose name is very common, very well known to me, but if I mentioned his name in my local pub, probably nobody had ever heard of him. Very, very famous NASCAR driver. And there he is in a Chevy Monte Carlo, 1995. There he is, young looking man then, 1995. And then here, Cannonball Run, a race without rules. Yep, still goes on today, I think, doesn't it? Gumball 3000. There's even been a film about it, hasn't there? And there we can see there's a Ferrari GTB, 365 GTB4. And then here we've got some in Covent Garden in 2011. I actually knew a guy that did this. I think that's his car there. I didn't know him, I knew of him. I bought a car that he used to own. A Nissan GTR, or Skyline GTR, should I say. Here we can see there's is that a Bentley there? Yes, I'm not sure what that is there. And then there's something like that. That's a GTR, I think. There we go. So let's get on with this build. Let me know about that. I'm confused about that. Why would they call it a GT500 and not mention the supercharger? So it seems strange. So then, pack 47. Blimey, this is heavy. We've got metal parts again, so this car is going to be getting heavier and heavier and heavier, just like the real thing. Actually, they're not too bad. It was really funny actually when the S550, which is my model Mustang, the 2015 to 2024. Was introduced, the British press all said it's too big for British roads. Well, I have some news for you, British press. It's smaller than a 5 Series BMW. There you go. So we have metal screws, so we're going to have to do some tapping. We have more metal screws, so we have to do some tapping, and we've got some plastic screws, so we won't have to do any tapping. Right, so we've got all our parts here. So what are we going to do? Retrieve gearbox 46A that you worked on last time. Retrieved, here it is. Place the gearbox front 47C. That's not the gearbox front, that is actually the bell housing, okay? It's not the gearbox front. Place the gearbox front bell housing in position at the wider end of the gearbox as shown in the pictures. Fit the protrusion on the gearbox from into the rectangular indentation on gearbox 1 as shown, ringed in red in the lower picture. So that is basically going to go like that. Okay, so it's keyed. Okay, so you can't put it the wrong way around. If you try and put it in that way up, it physically won't go. Okay, so it's keyed so it goes in that way. Alright, so now when you look at the side, you can see the bell housing on the front of the gearbox. Some little bits on there. Okay, next, retrieve the crankcase cover. Remember what I told you in the last video? Now on here there are 2 notches. Let's put this down and then I can show you. On here there are 2 notches. You can see those there. There's 2 little square lumps. In fact, I'll put the light on the lower setting. You can see those 2 square lumps on there. There's 2 square pegs in there. So that is going to go in that way and those notches will align. Okay. I'm just thinking you may as well fit that before you fit that. And then we're going to tighten these screws. It's funny that in the previous magazine it tells us not to tighten the screws all the way down. Let me show you something. They're tightened all the way down, okay? Still drops in. So you may as well just tighten them right down if you haven't done part 46 yet, or pack 46. And now we've got to do some tapping. So we have what screws are we going to use in here? DSO1s, they're 2.3, so I'm going to get my M2.3 tap and my pin vise, and we are going to cut some threads. So we're going to take that out of there and I'm going to cut some threads in here. So 1 turn forward, half a turn back. You don't need to go all the way in, just go in a few turns. There's the metal coming out. No, I don't use any oil or anything for fear of getting oily marks on the model. That's why I don't like putting the screws in with oil, because sometimes you put oil on something and it just spreads, and that's what I worry about. I don't worry about it, I don't lose sleep over it or anything. So we're going to be using the DSO1 screws here, yeah. So we've got 3 of those, so we'll have a spare as usual. So we can put that in the bin. So we'll put our spare over there with the others. So what's asking us to do is screw these 2 gearbox halves together. So we're going to drop this in there. Okay, we're going to drop that in there, as we've already done. And then to hold it all together, we're going to drop this on there just like that. See how lovely that fits? That top cover's a bit loose, but I don't think we need to worry about that. Okay, and then we're going to take 2 DSO1 screws. And screw those into our pre-cut threads. Just like so. There we are, that's that all together. So there's our transmission, gearbox, whatever you want to call it. You could put some glue on that if you want to, if it's bothering you, but it's going to be up against the floor, it's not going to be seen. So that bell housing is a bit loose as well, but as I say, it's all just going to be sitting there. It's not a working model, is it? Okay, secure the 2 parts together with 2 DSO1 screws as shown. Now we're going to get the chassis assembly and place the gearbox in its position on the underside of the chassis. To do this, first insert the end of the drive shaft into the centre of the tapered end of the gearbox. Then identify the 2 positions on the gearbox and on the chassis where they are screwed together and put the gearbox into place. So we are going to screw this together with 2 DSO2 screws. So again, we're going to have to do some thread cutting. So I'll come in here, 1 turn forward, half a turn back. Again, we don't need to go all the way in. And again here, 1 turn forward, half a turn back. That one's bottomed out, so the screw might be a little bit long for that one. We shall see. Although we've got the thickness of the plastic above it as well, haven't we? So we need to get our floor. So those PSO5 screws can go over there. Okay, so we need to get our floor. Hang on a minute, I'm just going to call in the crane people. Here we go. Oh. There's our great big floor. Okay, so that transmission is going to pop into there. So we've got those two pins there are going to go into those two holes there. So first we're going to get the right way up. We're going to get the prop shaft into there and then drop the transmission in. Now I'm going to, aha, I remembered this time. These are the screws you want, isn't it? I'm going to get a screw prepared on the screwdriver. I finally remembered. And then I'm going to tip this up on its side, like that, holding the gearbox in position, and then I'm going to plonk a screw into that forward hole, just like so. This is easier than it, which is not easier than it looks. This is quite awkward. Okay, so that's that one done up. Whoops, I just whacked the camera, sorry. And then we're going to get a screw into that hole there. There we go. So that's our transmission fitted securely. There we go. So we've got our transmission now, gearbox, bell housing, tail shaft, prop shaft, diff, axle casing, wheels, springs, yeah, it's all there. Right, now, so we've done that. Now flip the chassis back over and place the gearbox protection arch in position to ensure the correct orientation of the arch. Note that there is a pin that is pushed into a hole in the chassis. And then we're going to flip the chassis over and hold it in with two PSO5 screws. So we've got PSO5 screws here. So we'll get those out. Get myself pre-prepared. Here we go. I'm going guns at it now, aren't I? Right, and you can see, yeah, we have a hole of a pin here. So when this goes in, we've got a hole there, no hole there, so it has to go that way round. And this handbrake lever is going to go into that hole on the other end. So that's going to go into there. That's going to go into there. And that's going to drop into there like that. There we go. So now once again we can turn this over and we can put a screw in there. I know you can't see what I'm doing, I'm sorry, but I will show you in a minute where they go. And that one's going in there. Whoops. So turn this over, get my hand on there. Get that screwed in. So you can see there's our, what do they call it? They call it a protective arch. That's actually the gearbox mounting. Okay, this is the gearbox cross member and the mount is in there. So the gearbox sat on there. You have two engine mounts here and a gearbox mount is there. So that's what they call it, a protective arch. Right, so there we go. So we fitted our protective arch and the screws are there. So we've got, oh, come on, one screw there and one screw there, all nicely tightened up. So that is our gearbox completely fitted with its gearbox cross member or protective arch, however you're feeling. And there we are. So now let's have a look at pack 47. Right guys, I just said let's have a look at pack 47. It's clearly pack 48, we've just done 47. So here we go. Right, this is the actual model here on the front of the magazine. Isn't it beautiful? These magazines are a bit beaten up actually because they were underneath all the parts in the box. Normally they laid them on top. But I guess whichever way the box was over the van. There we go. The Blue Ridge Parkway. For lovers of long distance scenic drives, the Blue Ridge Parkway, which runs mostly along the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia, on the Trail of the Lonesome Pine, was that the one? Into North Carolina, offers as many rewarding moments as Route 66. So there we are. There's a couple there on their Harley, having some fun. Look at them with their t-shirts on. If they fell off, oh, dear, dear, dear. Bad as blimmin' youngsters on mopeds here in England. There's a beautiful road running through those beautiful trees. The Lynn Cove Viaduct, North Carolina, spans 379 metres around the slopes of Grandfather Mountain. Completed in 1987, it was the last of the 6 viaducts and 168 bridges to be built. Bloody hell. Beautiful. Just to allow us to see it all. Diversity is something we hear a lot about these days, isn't it? Shenandoah National Park's 168 kilometre long Skyline Drive, photographed in 1945. It was completed in 1932, and its ethos as a road that followed the landscape inspired President Roosevelt to approve the construction of a similar road continuing south. That road was the Blue Ridge Parkway. Little Switzerland Tunnel in the north of Carolina. In the state of North Carolina, sorry. The Blue Ridge Parkway has a total of 26 tunnels, 1 in Virginia and 25 in North Carolina. There we go, and there's Roosevelt's car. It's a nicknamed the Sunshine Special. The car was fitted with a 6.7 litre V12 engine developing 150 horsepower. Wow. And there we go, so there's the parts in pack 48. So we're basically going to be fitting the front end of the chassis. So we're going to get an idea now of how big this car actually is. Ford Mustang Mark V, back to its roots. I had one of these. If I think of it, I'll put a picture now. That mine was a 2007 and in grabber orange. The 5th generation Ford Mustang. Nowhere here does it say. It's S197 was what this was called. They're calling it a Mark V, but it's the 5th generation. The Mustang I've got, the one you've seen, my grabber blue one, that's called an S550, and that's the 6th generation. And now we've got the 7th generation, which is basically, a lot of people don't like to hear this, but it's basically a facelift of an S550. The floor pan, chassis rails, even the front rear screen and roof are the same as an S550. It's a it's a facelift basically. So hence all the suspension components and everything that will fit an S550, I believe, will fit a 7th gen. So I stand to be corrected on that if I'm wrong, but I believe I'm right in what I'm saying. So yeah, there it was. Came out in 2005. It was finally back to the recognisable, Shelby, the Mustang shape, that fastback shape, and everybody went mad for it in 2005. I went and got one in 2007 here in the UK. It was left-hand drive. It was a complete and utter pain to drive in this country. So the initial engines were a new 4-litre V6 from the German-made Cologne family with an output of 210 horsepower, available both manual or automatic, in both cases 5-speed, and a 4.6 litre V8 engine for the GT variant with a maximum power of 300 horsepower. With a, there you go, 300 horsepower, with a limited slip rear differential, clutch and carbon discs. Clutch with carbon discs, larger brakes, and wheels up to 18 inches. The GT version was the sportiest in the range, and the one that in a way brought back the essence of the Mustang muscle cars from the late 60s and 70s. That's what I was just talking about. Here's the S197 facelift. So basically the same car, but with a just facelifted. You can see there's got some difference in the haunches there. It's got a different front end, different rear end. When it first came out, I wasn't a fan, but they've really grown on me now, and I wouldn't mind getting one now because they are really nice, especially the Boss 302. And that was what had the 5 litre. That was the first Coyote engine, the Gen 1. So there we go. Beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. And there you can see there's a GT500. Yeah, there we go. See, I was just saying in part 47, I was saying there's something wrong there about, was it pack 47? Yes, it was in this video I was saying there's something wrong. It was 662 horsepower. So, I don't know, it was a 5.4 litre engine. That was in the, when they facelifted it, the GT500 still had the same engine, so I don't know what's going on there. The 5th generation Ford Mustang was a radical challenge of the model in an effort to get back to the essence of the first 1960s. That's right. Beautiful. The 2010 redesign gave the Mustang a more aggressive look with a thinner grille and smaller headlamps. Well, everything was different. The whole body, this was all different as well. It was very different. Right. So in fact, going from that to that is pretty much what they've done now with the 6th gen, 7th gen. That is basically the same car with a different body. It's probably the same roof, windscreen, but you can see the doors. No, the doors are different. The fenders are different. The rear edge, the whole body is different. So there we go. But it's still called an S197. So let's have a look at what we've got in our magazine, in our parts this month. So here we have, to be correct, they would probably call it the frame, because in America, chassis doesn't exist, it's a frame. So here we've got the lovely box that comes in. One thing with DeAgostini, their packaging is wonderful. Everything is beautifully packaged. We've got some nice tissue paper, we've got a bag of screws there, make sure you don't lose those. So we've got lots of holes to thread cut here, lots of tapping to go on. That'll be fun. I'm not going to do anything yet, just in case it's different size screws going in. But there we have our front chassis. So here's this is part of our K member, front cross member, and then this is the front bumper support, the crash protection. There's our main chassis rails, or frame rails. Okay, and then we've got a bag of DSO2 screws, which is cool. We can get those open, get those out. There we go. We'll have one spare as usual. Okay, so retrieve the chassis completed so far. This is like bloody weight training. There we go. There's the chassis completed so far. I'm starting to run out of room on this bench. Okay. I'll try and grab the magazine now from under the wheels. Retrieve the completed chassis so far. Position the front chassis in front of the chassis. Assembly aligning both parts as shown in the picture, excuse me. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to drop that on there, and then we're going to put 4 screws in, and that's it. Finally check the 2 parts of the chassis are well coupled and finish tightening the 4 screws. Right, so basically that is going to drop onto there. I've already tapped these holes in here before I put the camera on, so I didn't have to sit you through that again. So this is basically going to push down. It's a nice snug fit, it's quite a tight fit, so make sure you push that down nice and snug. And then we're going to grab 4 of the screws, and I'm going to put 1 in here. Notice I'm not tightening anything down. I'm going to put 1 in here. That didn't even screw in. And then I'm going to put 1 in here. And I'm going to put 1 in here. There we go. So now I'm going to go back to this one and nip it down. And what this is doing, it's pulling down. This is here we go. You can see here that this is pulling itself down. As I tighten the screws, you should see it move. This is becoming very awkward to do on camera, guys. I may have to think about a new camera position. There we go. So there we are, that's those. I did tighten them all down, didn't I? Yep, they are all done up. So once again here, we're going to have to be very careful. I know we've got a nice fit on there, and we've got these big lugs are going over raised pins, but when you pick this up, you're putting a hell of a lot of leverage on there. It's trying to snap it off. So when we get the body together and everything, this will be supported. So if I were you, I would pick your model up like that. Okay. Perhaps go from that corner to that corner, like that. But you can see this thing. I mean, this is an A2 cutting mat. We are already, what's that, 23. We are 30 inches long, practically. So it is a big, big model. Okay, it's going to take pride of place on my coffee table, and we've got a lot of extension to go. I mean, that front bumper is going to stick out a mile, so it's going to grow and grow and grow. So there we are, guys. That has been pack 48. I'll show you what it looks like from underneath. There we go. There we are. Lovely, isn't it? Just one other thing I wanted to mention, because I keep forgetting to mention it. This fuel filler on the back here, it was, I think they put it in the wrong position in the build. I think it would have been far better to fit these arches before that. So if you have got the model and you haven't started it yet, if you're not doing it week by week like I am, then you might consider fitting the fuel tank after you fit these arches, because the fuel tank is held in place. Yeah, it's held in place with those 4 screws. So basically these 4 screws here are screwing into the bottom fuel tank and sandwiching the chassis around it. So if you undo those 4 screws, the top of the fuel tank lifts out and the bottom of the fuel tank falls out. So what you could do is fit this after you fit these wheel arches, and then that won't get broken. The problem is, before you've got these wheel arches, every time you turn it over, that gets snapped off. And I've ended up putting a great big screw in there because I snapped it off so many times. I got a slightly bigger screw each time, and now it's got a screw about that long in there, which is probably 3 mil in diameter, to hold it. And it's still, you can see it's still floppy, but it is what it is. So my suggestion is, if you're collecting these and you're going to build them at a later date, or you're just a bit behind, fit that after you fit these wheel arches, and then when you turn the model over, it won't touch them. It won't touch that. That's a very vulnerable part, and it shouldn't have been fitted now. I think it should have been glued in or something when you fit the trunk, because it's just so vulnerable. These exhausts are quite vulnerable as well, so be careful of those. So it's just common sense, really. Just make sure you're careful with it. So there we go. So I've now got to try and find somewhere to store this bloody great big thing. So thank you for watching. I will see you all in about 4 weeks' time for another 5 weeks' time for another update, and we'll go from there. If you haven't enjoyed this, please don't forget to hit the subscribe and give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't enjoyed it, then I'm sorry. I know this is a scale modelling channel and this is a part work, but when I saw this, I just had to have it. So there we go. See you all soon. Thank you for watching. Bye.